Today on the PIO Podcast, I'd like to welcome Director of Customer Success, Brandon Karr. He's from DroneSense by Versaterm. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. I'm super excited.
Brandon, I'm seeing an awful lot of hardware on that back wall back there. I like that. You got a lot of challenge coins back there. That's awesome. So I know you've been around for quite a bit. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is it's always kind of fun because I get a lot of discussion about this. It's an easy icebreaker to talk to different webinars and podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, these are different awards that I got over the years working for the Pearland Police Department, standing up their drone program, and then a bunch of agency coins that I've gotten over the years talking and helping out agencies all over the world. So
yeah,
it's been a really fun ride.
That's awesome. My son is in the Coast Guard and he's in a specialized drug unit, and he's been getting coins left and right, and they just started really pushing drones out for the Coast Guard. So really cool to interview you and to learn more about what DroneSense by Versaterm does. So first of all, Drew, for you, how has your background shaped the way you approach technology for public safety?
And it's been really interesting. So my police department that I used to work for, which was the Pearland Police Department, they started their drone program back in 2016. Unfortunately, it developed out of tragedy. We had an autistic juvenile go missing, and we believed at the time that if we had drones, we potentially could have saved that child's life or brought closure sooner than we did, right? And so before that, the only drone experience that I had was playing like Call of Duty or Battlefield 4 on PlayStation, right? But I do come from an aviation background. So before I was a police officer, I was a certified flight instructor for single engine and multi-engine fixed wing aircraft. And so that's where my background comes from. I was able to leverage that in my policing world once the opportunity for drones started. Back then there wasn't really a playbook. So we all just went and talked to agencies that also had a drone program and figured out best practices, started collaborating, and then the program just exploded. Now Pearland is one of the most recognized drone programs in the world. They were one of the first agencies in the country to get multiple different authorizations. We were the first agency in the country to get a fully beyond visual line of sight drone as first responder program stood up. So it's been wild to watch how we started out with just, pun intended, winging it, to now how there's formalized processes. There's like drones are part of a police structure now, right? Like especially when it goes into SWAT operations, drones are first in. Officers nowadays are expecting a drone to be in the air. So it's been really interesting watching it evolve from, those guys are just playing with toys to like, where's the drone, right? So it's been really, really cool to watch.
So since 2016, that's quite a long time. A lot of agencies, I know when I was still with my former agency, that was back in 2020, we were just getting into the purchasing of a drone. And that was technology that nobody really wanted to play with. And of course, as soon as you hear licensing, officers go crazy. And where I was at, we were right in the flight path of O'Hare Airport. So we had limits on how high we could fly and stuff. So it was an interesting experience. And then, of course, the cost and trying to get your supervisors to say, yeah, we're going to spend $20,000 on a drone. And back then, and they're like, well, why can't you just go buy this one at Walmart? And they don't quite understand that. So can you talk a little bit about your role at DroneSense and what's the day-to-day look like for you?
Yeah. So like you said, I'm the director of customer success with DroneSense. So everybody that is under my chain of command is under the professional services division, which is where we provide audits on agency programs. We can provide recommendations on policy. We also do all of the waiver writing. It's where we do training and operations as well. So that's all of our professional services side of the house. We also have our customer success side of the house, which is going to be your dedicated individual who is going to check in with the agency, see how they're doing, where are the pain points, where are the growth opportunities, right? Like, hey, this is an agency that got one drone. How do we grow your program? How can we train you and work with your teams to make you successful? So that's where those individuals are. We also have all of our support side of the house. So if you're having issues or if you have feature requests and things of that nature, you can call our 24/7 support line or email us, and then we can make sure that all of those questions get answered and all of those bugs are investigated.
So from the standpoint of DroneSense, are you guys also are you selling the drones to the agencies as well?
We do, yeah. So we do offer hardware solutions that we can sell. We are distributors for DJI, Parrot, and a few other aircraft like Vantage as well. And we have a lot more aircraft coming out this next year that I'm super excited about for a distributor. But we are primary, like the heart of DroneSense is our software as a service package where we provide the ability to do live streaming with any type of aircraft that you want to fly. Like, for example, I've gotten in DJI aircraft, which is what the majority of people are utilizing, but we also offer Blue UAS services as well with Parrot, Skydio, Spur. We also offer support for all of your fleet management as well. So we all do automated flight logging. We do incident management, software build outs as well. We also provide the ability to track your pilots, track your training, track your maintenance. All of that is built into the software and it's all included in the software. Last but not least, we aren't just a drone streaming service. We also have been able to bring in terrestrial robots, helicopters, submersibles, cell phones, pole cams, like all kinds of stuff. So while it is DroneSense, we have the ability to bring in all kinds of different solutions into one nice situational awareness platform designed for public safety.
There's an agency here in Illinois, the Oak Brook Terrace Police Department. They actually have their drones respond to the scene prior to the officers getting there. I know
Nice.
they originally started out as burglary investigations, that kind of stuff, and it's now always deployed, which is amazing.
Yep.
And I find that obviously they've got to dedicate a pilot that's going to be able to do that. They also have to have the battery power and the extra units to go up and down, right? Because the batteries
Absolutely.
don't last forever.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like drone as first responder, exactly what you're describing there. That is the future of law enforcement. Full stop. Like it's going to be so common with agencies all over the country in the next 5 years that you'll be really hard pressed to find an agency that doesn't have some type of drone as first responder program, whether it's owned by that agency or it's owned by like the county and it provides that services for them. I think you'll be really hard pressed to find an agency that doesn't have it. The fact that it's right there in your backyard is just amazing to hear, right? Because it's such a huge force multiplier in the interest of not just officer safety, but community safety as well.
Speaking of community safety, my hometown, Bartlett, Illinois, they have fairly large festivals every year. They were flying 4 drones for the entire event
Yep.
overhead, and just amazing. And I happened to get in. I knew the chief before he retired. I happened to get in the command vehicle and look at this, and it's pretty cool. I mean, they were bringing the drones up and down. They get alert on something. They look at it. They dispatch officers over to it. So that situational awareness, especially in crowds nowadays, where it's very difficult for the officer on the ground to see things developing. It's really cool. So I'm loving this technology aspect of it. How do agencies balance that dollar amount versus the advantages of having a program?
That's the sometimes $1 million question, isn't it? So there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat, right? There are grant funding opportunities that you can leverage. Like there's the DOJ grants, there's UASI for the Urban Area Security Initiative. If you have the ability to do that, if you're in a major metroplex, there's smart city initiatives, there's Police One, there's Walmart. There's so many grant opportunities that are out there. Now, granted, the grant opportunities don't allow for you to purchase DJI equipment, but they do allow you to purchase everything else, right? So that is one component to a large program. So you can leverage those grants to purchase the detect and avoid solutions. You can use it to purchase DroneSense. You can utilize it to purchase all the ancillary equipment that you may need to be able to stand up a program like that. But getting back to your question, right, specifically about how do you fund that? What's the return on investment? Well, generally speaking, across the country, agencies that leverage drones and drone as first responders specifically have the ability to disregard first responders to going to the call for service a little over 25% of the time. So imagine that you have a call for service, let's say an MHMR individual, right? Somebody who is acting weird, but not illegal, right? You can fly a drone over to that area and on view that individual. Are they a danger to themselves? No. Are they a danger to society? No. All right. There's no reason to have an officer go make contact with that individual if they're not doing anything wrong or they're not in need of help. Right. So that's something that a drone can go and on view that and be able to witness that and report that to the officers and say, hey guys, we're going to clear this call with the drone. We'll monitor him for a little bit. We will make contact with the reportee as well to let them know, hey, we didn't just clear the call, right? We were able to see that individual. and get those officers back to more higher priority calls for service. Conversely, on that, right? Like, let's say there's a crash with injuries on a major highway. I don't, you said you came from a law enforcement background too, right? How
Yeah.
many times did those crashes actually get the call for service location right? Never. Right? It's never
Yep.
in the right block. Sometimes it's on the main lane. Sometimes it's on the feeder. The drone has the ability to find that very, very quickly, report that, right? Because the drone is able to beat first responders to that call for service over 70% of the time. That's huge, right? So, like, not only do we have a greater ability to coordinate resources to those call for services in a timely manner, we have the ability to disregard those. It also helps with liability, right? If they're screaming across the city or the county to get to a crash with no injuries, but it got reported as one with injuries, right? That allows us to reduce liability to the agency, reduce liability to the city. So, like, all of those go into the thought process when you're thinking about the investment, right?
Brandon, do you have like a specific example? And the reason I'm asking this is because I gave examples, but a specific example where DroneSense or the use of a drone helped during a large scale incident or crisis?
Absolutely. So one of the services that DroneSense also provides is a DroneSense response team. So we have helped support major incidents all over the country, right? We have helped support multiple Super Bowls, multiple World Series, the presidential inauguration. We've been able to help support Marine Corps Marathon. But most importantly, and this unfortunately is a little bit of our claim to fame, is disaster response. So our team went to Asheville, North Carolina last year for Hurricane Helene. We help support all of the operations to get them back on their feet, right? Asheville got dealt a really bad deck of cards with the hurricane that went up there. They don't never get hit with hurricanes. They're not infrastructured for it. So we were able to go up there and help support that because we have people from Texas, like I am, that gets hit with hurricanes all the time. We got people from Florida, which is Hurricane Alley, right? And so we got to go up there and provide them with lessons learned. And where DroneSense helped that support that is all of those mutual drone programs that came to help support get Asheville back on their feet, all of them were utilizing DroneSense. And so what we did was we allowed those agencies to have free licenses for that event. We trained them very quickly on how to utilize the software, and then we sent them out into the field to provide real-time situational awareness, mapping capabilities, live streaming capabilities for incident command to be able to view that at their incident command post so that they can make real-time, high data value decisions to get them back on the feet in a timely manner. So DroneSense has the ability to bring in all of these other agencies, and this is part of our secret sauce as well, is all these mutual aiding agencies, we can put it all under one big pane of glass. We can provide incident action plans. So it's on their remote, it's on their cell phone. So when they go out in the field, they can see exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. So it really helps bring all of those agencies into one big pane of glass for incident command to make very difficult decisions very, very quickly with the best data they could have available to them.
I see the advantages here. I also see the disadvantages where the public is very concerned about it. How can community concerns about drones and privacy, how does an agency message that? Because obviously people hear drones, they think they're looking in their windows, watching them privately, and of course they think Big Brother, and that's really not what this is.
No, and you are dead on. I mean, drones even I mean, they've been around since before 2016. They hit mainstream in 2016, right? But they are still fairly taboo, right? Like nobody wants to be spied upon. That's I mean, even coming from law enforcement backgrounds, like we don't want to be spied upon, right? Like
Right.
we share that sentiment. So that's part of one of the things that we do with our professional services in doing that policy development, that program development is talking about community engagement, community transparency, right? And so going through and making sure that that's in the policy. What are you going to fly for? What are you not going to fly for? Also, we have a public transparency page for drones first responder operations that those agencies can make public so they can see all of those flights. When did they fly? Why did they fly? There's narratives associated with those. There's maps associated with those. So they could see what is the agency doing with those drones. Not only that, we go one step further. Every single flight that we have the ability to do a 3D mock-up of where that drone flew and where it was looking. We don't bring in the video feed and retain that, but we do show an angle where the gimbal was looking to show, look, we may have been over your property, but we weren't looking at your property. We were looking 4 streets down at the meth lab, right? Or we were looking 5 streets down or 5 houses down looking for that missing person. Like we weren't looking for you. And so like being able to tie all that together and have that readily available at the end user's fingertips to be able to answer those FOIA requests, those Public Information Act requests, we make it really easy to be able to do.
So you already have something built into that in order to allay their fears, so to say. so to
Correct.
speak.
You're
Excellent.
right. Because we are a public safety built software, we understand public safety gets FOIA requests. We understand that they get Public Information Act requests. So we made that very early on so that those agencies would have that readily available to help curb some of those and make that that life a little bit easier to respond.
So you guys are archiving the video as well? Is that correct or no?
So we do not retain the video. We don't retain the video or the photographic imagery. That saves to the SD card with the agency.
Okay.
Right. So, like that way, they don't have to worry about subpoenaing us for those court reports and things of that nature. We are working towards a solution to be able to do that. So, because there have been some agencies that the SD card failed or they forgot to put it in there, right? They didn't do a real good pre-flight checklist for whatever reason. And so they were asking us, hey, do you have that video? So we're working towards that, but it's not a feature that we have right now.
I can't imagine the bandwidth would be able to support that either. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we
you
have a
need them.
ton of agencies all over the world, and all of them have different data security and like
Right,
what is the US's version of CGIS, right?
right.
Um,
The
and we have
mesh
to be able to
network
meet all
would
those
be,
requirements.
yeah, the mesh network would be nuts.
Yep.
So let's talk about wildfires. Drones get used now. It's a lot more frequently for what in wildfires. How should a PIO play? What role should the PIO play in deciding what footage to put out? Because obviously that it's a very
It is.
emotional thing that happens. People lose homes and property. How do they balance that?
Yeah, so that's a really hard one to answer, right? I have a Brandonism, which is just my idea on how it works really well and in my experience. But sometimes it's still challenging, right? The number one concern that I would have as a PIO would be to how do you curb what I like to call disaster tourists, right? You get disaster tourism when what happens? Well, there's just not enough information out there. And so people get their drone, their Walmart drone, their Amazon drone, and they go look for themselves, right? So if you can curb that, if you can find a way to provide that information in a timely and effective manner, then you can curb the disaster tourism. And what that does for you is allows you to use those super scoopers to come in really low and help put out those fires, right? We just had at the Palisades fire where we had one of those disaster tourists crash their drone into a super scooper, right? Like that
Yeah.
aircraft went into the wing of that aircraft. So how do you fight that, right? Well, DroneSense has the ability to be able to push live streams out to uncredentialed individuals and credentialed individuals. So what you can do is say once every 4 to 5 hours, have a planned flight for the community to watch those live feeds. Take that link, put it on your community webpage, put it on Facebook, right? And push those feeds out. Fly a known route that you're not going to find bodies, right? Because that's really the concern on why you
Hmm.
don't want to push everything, because that's not fair to the grieving families that lost loved ones. It's also not fair to the first responders as well. So do a planned flight where it gives them really good information. You do it at a somewhat routine cadence so they know, all right, I want to know where we're at right now. I know that there's a flight that they're going to do a live stream for in 4 hours, right? And then just do a known route and live stream it so everybody can see it. Yeah, everybody gets to check that box of, okay, that was where my house was. I know I need to contact my insurance agency, or hey, my house was fine. My neighbor's house was fine, right? They're still doing a lot of work. I saw agencies everywhere that are out there doing the Lord's work, trying to get our feet back underneath us, right? So, in law enforcement, we call it PR powder. Like, go and do a PR flight, right? And go up there and give the community those flights so that they can see what's going on.
Excellent. All right, so you've already kind of talked about what happened in Asheville. So the way I'm going to tie this in here is how do you use a drone to deal with misinformation and like you said those what did you call them or not vacation? What was the phrase?
Disaster tourists.
Disaster tourists. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat too, right? Like if your overarching goal is to help curb that, right? Again, those routine flights are really important. My biggest recommendation is if you are an impacted civilian for a disaster, right? Report that information to incident command. Because the one thing that we don't want as somebody who is responding for those disasters is duplication of efforts, right? Like we have a lot of really great associations like Texar, EquiSearch, Cajun Navy, right? Like there are so many different organizations that come in that want to help and their heart's in the right spot. But let's leverage that. Let's put them into a task that hasn't been done yet. So if you're a civilian or you're an association, communicate through the proper pathways within the ICS structure, the incident command structure, so that you can get properly tasked, so that you can get you don't have duplication of efforts. And so that those civilians can put in the request and we can make sure that those get answered, right? Because if you try to do it on your own, now we have to deconflict airspace. Now we have duplication of efforts and we can really focus on the task at hand. So
Oh,
my biggest recommendation on that side is go through the proper structures.
okay. So AI has really like become a big thing now. Everybody's talking AI in law enforcement. We're still kind of slow. There's a little bit of it being used. How do you see AI and automation or real-time video feeds shaping the next stage of drone technology for public safety?
Man, that's a really good question. Because that you're right. Like that is the future. Is coming in and getting that artificial intelligence to go through and do the stuff that maybe a fatigued first responder may not see. Right? Computers don't get tired, so there's definitely some avenues in there, and there are software that are out there right now that leverage early access AI into those systems. There are solutions that will automatically find different color palettes, right? Like if the individual that is missing was wearing a black shirt, I can go into the palette and I say, hey, that individual was wearing a black, blue, green, yellow shirt. And then it can go through and scan all of those images, all of those video feeds for that color palette and flag it. So now we can go back and we can send first responders out to those known locations where it met that criteria and start clearing that off. So now we're more efficient and more effective in our operations, right? So, like, that is one example. One thing that came out of the Kerrville floods down here in Texas is something very similar. They utilized AI to scan thermal imagery to find off gassing from human bodies that were still missing in there so that we could go back and put a cadaver dog and try to find those bodies that were still missing to bring closure to those
Yeah.
families that had missing loved ones still. So like those are two really good examples, both on the thermal side and on the visual side, where they are leveraging AI to help with the efficiency of some of the things that those drones are doing.
Outstanding. I did see though there's an agency in the Chicagoland area. The transit agency is using AI to identify people on the platforms and stuff that may display a handgun or a
Yep.
firearm.
Yep.
And I could definitely see that in a drone, that technology being able to see that from a distance and identify it quicker for officer safety. So I definitely see AI being a huge part of drone use as it goes into the future.
Yeah. And like it's something that as a law enforcement entity, right? Like you really need to think very long, very carefully about how you're going to leverage AI, right? Going back to the taboo of things too, right? So with AI and talking about color palettes, weapon recognition comes in then the discussion about, all right, well, what about facial recognition, right?
Hmm.
So that's where going back and having those national night outs, having those open houses with the community, talking to the explorers, going to city council and talking about how you want to utilize AI with your program goes a really long way, because what the last thing you want to do is say, man, we're going to try it. And then the community was not ready for that. And now you spent a lot of money and you also lost a lot of trust with the community by jumping the gun. So really need to think long and hard about AI and really talk to your community about how you're going to leverage that to make sure everybody's on the same page and accepts it.
Yep. I like that. I definitely like that. You got to get that out there as quickly as you can, and you got to communicate, and you got to be kind of baby steps with it instead of running and leaping. Brandon, where do you see you guys at in 5 years down the road?
Oh man, hopefully in 5 years down the road, we'll be integrated into seeing drone responder everywhere, and we'll be a big component to that. Where I see us going in the next 5 years as well is a little bit more automation, right? Like you're already starting to see that within the vehicular world as well in the crewed aviation world, where you're starting to see planes get flown more by autopilot. You're starting to see cars get driven more by autopilot, right? We got Waymo and a bunch of other stuff. I can see the drone industry going into that world as well, whereas right now it's a very manual process, right? And there are pros and cons to that, right? Like Brandonism, again, I really like people making decisions, right? Because especially in today's world where AI is still fairly new and it still makes quite a bit of mistakes. Right. In 5 years, it'd probably be really dialed in. And so I'm excited to see that. But I can see where, a 911 call drops and it's a critical incident. The drone knows, all right, it meets these criteria. It'll automatically launch, automatically fly to the location, automatically start searching. We can leverage an AI, find missing people, potentially do some triage even, right? Like there's some really good cameras built into these solutions. Or do they have a higher rate of breathing, or do they have broken bones? Is their blood like how do we need to look at those components and think about how now or we're going to tie that into the logistics of sending first responders with the right package to meet that type of call for service, right? So I think that that'll be really cool. I think in disaster response, we'll see a really big jump. We're already starting to see a lot of disaster response AI. So going in and doing critical infrastructure inspection, automatically mapping and processing that data for FEMA. We're also going to start seeing more and more agencies or more aircraft start leveraging equipment, right? So there's some really cool stuff coming out of Florida where they're already moving AEDs, Narcan effects, right? Like so that it can provide triage and first aid in the field just by dropping that system from the drone, right? So I am incredibly excited to see where we're going to be in 5 years with the drone industry as a whole.
That's an interesting thing to think. I know that that probably came out of the whole Amazon thing where they're going to deliver your product to your front door. But that would be amazing if the drone goes to a scene, it's an overdose. They determine that the person definitely is overdosing on something and it drops Narcan down to the people that didn't have it. That would be amazing to be able to do that
Yeah.
and save a life. I mean, wow,
And
truly.
imagine, right? Like again, the drone is able to beat first responders there over 70% of the time.
Yeah.
So like we could already blast them with Narcan by the individual that's there, like, known overdose, hit them with Narcan. And when first responders are getting there, they're already back up and running. We don't have to wait for first responders to get there. And that potentially could cause, death in that response time for whatever reason. So having the ability to drop that Narcan and get that first response ability there early on, it goes a really long way.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting to see stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to that. I just got my first drone, and that was something I started, and that was one of the reasons why I was kind of excited. Oh, I'll get to talk to you and hear about your background and stuff. So that's awesome. All right, Brandon, is there a question I should have asked, and if so, how would you have answered it?
That's a good one. One of the biggest things that like lessons learned from agencies like helping them all over the world is again, we touched on it a lot already is transparency, transparency, transparency. Like clandestine programs is what kills programs because once the public finds out about it, then they're going to assume, all right, well, why didn't you tell us? What else didn't you tell us? So transparency is key. The other thing that I would highly recommend early on is really get behind have the Chiefs get behind the program early on, show the Chiefs the value. And the reason being is one of the other things that really hurts programs over time is internal misunderstanding about what those drone pilots are doing, right? Like you hear it all the time. Oh, they're out, they're flying their toys, right? They're playing with their toys. Like
Hmm.
try to get away from that mindset. It's not a toy, it's an aviation program, right? Like early on, yeah, every agency looks at them as toys, but as you get those wins, and you start really advocating for those wins, you start realizing, all right, this isn't a toy. This is a game changer. This is allowing me to get back to other more important calls for service or get back to writing those reports that got stacked, right? It keeps officers safe. So be an advocate for your own program, be your own cheerleader within the program because no one else is going to do it, right? So what makes a program successful is celebrating those wins, no matter how big or how small they may be. So get those live streams out to the first responders, get those live stream out to patrolmen so they can see what your capabilities are and they can see, oh, this thing can see a lot. It can see for really far. The thermal is really good, right? Like these things will help a program go from just having a toy to having an aviation division. And that is a really big component because you have to have that growth. You have to have those wins. You have to talk about those wins because those wins are what gives you bigger budgets. It's what gives you more pilots. It's what allows your program to really, really run.
Yeah, and
So those would be my two takeaways.
I don't think a lot of agencies think strategically like that, and part of that is they haven't brought their communications division into that whole process, and that is absolutely true. Sharing information to the public about everything that you're doing and showing them those wins. Like just recently, an agency here, they were looking for an autistic boy that had walked away from home. They found him a couple hours later in the woods, and they were able to get the drone, multiple drones up, and find him with thermal and very quickly once they were up. It would have taken hours and hours for people to walk through those woods to find him. So those are
Absolutely. I
great
mean, like
stories.
one of our very first finds, it was really kind of fun. Like I said, our program started on tragedy with the autistic individual who died. Our very first deployment was another autistic individual who left his group home. Patrolmen had looked for that individual for a little over an hour and a half. And then they called me and my partner out, who had just started the drone program. Like we did not know what we were doing. Right. And so like we get out there and we go to the park, we launch the drone, and we found that individual within 30 minutes. Well, so like that's the exact kind of stuff that you got to
Yeah.
talk about. Like you got to record it. You got to give it to the PIO so that they can put it on Facebook. And like it's something else that really goes into things that I really like to harp on is that I like to talk about is like again, like drone as first responder programs are able to clear calls for services with the drone alone over 25% of the time. There's not a program in this country that is fully staffed. So imagine the drone allowing officers to go to those more higher priority calls and clear those and just clear the other ones with a drone. One pilot can handle multiple districts, right? So like it makes it really easy to handle that. The other side of that is we have a new type of individuals that are coming into law enforcement, right? Like that younger generation is very different in their mindset on how they want to do policing. And bringing in technology helps with that recruiting effort. So if those PIOs are not advertising those wins with the drone, you're hurting your recruiting capabilities as well. So that's something else to really, really highlight as well.
All right, Brandon, this is awesome. I love it. Let's go into some rapid fire questions, and then we're gonna wrap this up with some final thoughts.
Do it.
All right, phone call, voice memo, or FaceTime. What's your go-to for staying connected?
I utilize FaceTime a lot with the family, but text messages is how I typically get a lot of comms. Is through text. That's just still old school a little bit on that one.
Awesome. Stream binge or weekend read? What's your ideal escape?
Binge.
Morning ritual. Morning ritual. Sunrise workout, quiet coffee, or news scroll?
Coffee. I was night shift patrolman for 9 years, so like I hate mornings. So coffee is how I get sane.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. What's your I earned this indulgence after a tough week?
Well, so a tough week would be if we ended up breaking something on a release, unfortunately. And so at that point, it's my job. It's all hands on deck to try to get that resolved, find the issue, find the resolution, and get it pushed to fix that quickly. So that's the big one for me.
Okay. If you could adopt an animal, real or mythical, what would it be?
Ooh, a griffin.
Oh,
Yeah, that'd
I
be a
like
griffin because
that.
I could fly and I'm a lion. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I like that. What's one song that always gets you moving no matter the mood?
I like to move it, move it. Yeah, my kids with Madagascar. Yeah, oh, that'll get me going quick.
Teleportation or time travel?
Ooh, time travel. Time
If
travel
you
would
could
be fun.
if you could master one skill overnight, what would it be?
Coding. That way I can help with our engineers try to find things even faster.
Play it safe or roll the dice?
Roll the dice. Definitely.
If you had 48 hours and no responsibilities, where would you go?
Ooh, I would go back to Norway. I really enjoy Norway. It's a lot of fun up there.
Nice.
Really pretty area.
What historical figure would you want to sit down with and have coffee with if you could?
George Washington. George
Awesome.
Washington. Yeah, well, having just to pick his brain a little bit on all the things that were going on at the foundation of this country would be really interesting to talk about.
That would definitely be an interesting one. All right, Brandon, final thoughts. What key points would you like listeners to take from today's interview?
Even though drones have been around for a really long time, we're still going into the next phase, the next chapter of the drone industry. So nothing is made in a vacuum. No one person has all the answers, including me. And I have done a lot. I'm one of the most well-known subject matter experts for drone operations law enforcement. I have a big network of people that I call and I ask. So get into those networks, go to the conferences. We have the Versaterm user conference coming up. I will be at IACP. There's law enforcement drone association conferences. There's drone responders conferences. There's APSA, Airborne Public Safety Conferences. Go to them. I cannot stress that enough because getting to network with people and learn their lessons learned will solve a whole lot of problems for you in the long run.
Awesome. As we wrap this up, do you have a piece of wisdom or a motto that you live by?
Just give it a shot. But like one thing that it's important to like plan things and be strategic and think things through, but sometimes people try too hard to get it perfect. So one of my most favorite mentors, his name's Charles Warner. He's the president of Drone Responders. One thing that has always resonated with me for a long time with him is one of his mantras, which is don't let perfect get in the way of good. And it's okay to not have everything in line. Have a good idea, have a path, and shoot for it. You can always pivot, right? You can always change the plan. So give it a shot. So don't let perfect get in the way of good.
Brandon, I like that. That's a really good one. How can people reach out if they want to connect or learn up about DroneSense and what you guys are doing, or if they want to institute DroneSense?
Yeah, go to our webpage at dronesense.com. We have the ability to fill out a, hey, I want to know more page. So just put your information in there, and there's a little note section in there too, like put in there like what you're interested in, waivers, best practices, situational awareness, streaming, whatever, and just put your data in there. It'll get to the right people. If you want to talk to me directly, feel free to put like, hey, I want to talk to Brandon. It'll get to me. And I would be more than happy to be able to have any conversations that you may need for your program.
And I will add all that into the show notes. Brandon, thank you very much for being on the show.
Absolutely, Robert. I appreciate you, man. This was fun.
Thank you. All right, Brendan, we're out. Nice. Nice job.
Awesome. I'm at 99.